Hi everybody. In today's video, I'm going to briefly share some updates on my Friends and Gilmore Girls TBR, which is called From Manhattan to Stars Hollow. To preface this book, to preface what this TBR is about, it is books that are either written by memoirs written by actors on Friends or Gilmore Girls. Like, I've read Matthew Perry's memoir and Tom Selleck's memoir for this TBR, or books that have New York City settings, like Make the Season Bright by Ashley Herring Blake, or books that describe what happens in certain episodes of Friends, or certain characters. Like, for example, earlier in the fall, I read an essay collection called How to Ruin Everything, which describes Chandler. So, the first book I wanted to briefly mention is Wild by Cheryl Strayed. Two booktubers that I follow have reviewed this book last year, Olive at A Book Olive and Gabby at Gabby Reads. And this memoir was turned into a movie that I believe stars Reese Witherspoon, which I will be watching with Kathleen at the end of next month. We buddy read this book together, so I'm not going to talk about it too much in this video. I'm just going to say that I enjoyed it, but I felt like the character's experiences that she was going through that inspired her to go on this hike are not very relatable to me. The next book I wanted to talk about today is a graphic novel by Caitlin Major and Kelly Bastow that I found out about on a list that the Chicago Public Library posted, which was a series of book recommendations that were inspired by the Friends characters. So, along with this book, I also found the book How to Ruin Everything, which is the essay collection by George Watsky. That was Chandler's book. I found The Knockoff by Lucy Sykes, which describes Rachel. I found The Dinosaur Artist by Paige Williams, which describes Ross. Specifically, I linked that book to the episode where he goes to China to go to the symposium about the dinosaur bone, and he meets Julie. And then a cookbook on that list represents Joey, but I just decided to use any cookbook that I own to represent Joey, specifically recipes that we make in the Friends cookbook that are related to Joey-centric episodes, like Joey's Two Pizzas or whatever. And then let me look up what the book was that... Oh, the book that described Monica was The Life-Changing Process of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. And another book that I read for Nonfiction November that described Monica is Be My Guest, which is an essay collection by Priya Basil about being a good hostess and hosting parties. So this book was on that list from the Chicago Public Library that I found, and it was listed for Phoebe. And I think the people who put together this list picked this for Phoebe for two reasons. One, because of the song Smelly Cat. And two, let me read you what this is about. Welcome to the world of Manfried the Man, where human-like felines are in charge and cute little humans are kept as pets. This all-new book-length story based on the popular Manfried webcomic flips the familiar cat-human dynamic on its head, but keeps a sweet friendship at its heart. Spend some time in Manfried's world, and you'll never see pets and their owners the same way again. So, with the cat-human dynamic thing, a way I think this book describes Phoebe is the episode I just watched a couple of weeks ago, where a lost cat wanders into Central Park, and Phoebe thinks that it is a reincarnated version of her dead mom who committed suicide. And everybody is going along with that except for Ross, who doesn't really put up with Phoebe's shit. So the aspect of this webcomic being in a world that flips the cat-human dynamic made me connect to that storyline where Phoebe thinks a cat is a reincarnated version of her mom. So I gave this book 4.5 stars on Goodreads because I loved the ingenious premise behind the comic, and also, like, these illustrations are beautiful. And also, in the back, the authors put a section where they have, like, their sketches of the original art for the cats, which I thought was cool. And then they also have, like, thumbnails for the illustrations for the covers, which is pretty cool. And I will share my rating of Wild when Kathleen and I review the book and movie and make a comparison in next month's video, which will be up on February 28th. After I'm gonna film this video with her at her apartment, so the location will be different, and we're basically going to be talking about Wild. We're going to be talking about the third Gilmore Girl. We're going to be talking about the Picture of Dorian Gray, and we're going to be reviewing all of the episodes that we have watched so far of seasons 1 and 2 of Gilmore Girls, because by then we will be completely done with seasons 1 and 2. And because I'm writing a fan fiction that's a coming-of-age story for my self-insert character for Uncle Chandler, I Love You, we have also seen the episodes from season 3, A Deep Fried Korean Thanksgiving, Keg Max, and These Are Strings Pinocchio. Now I just wanted to share some chapters from my fan fiction that I'm writing that I just wrote a couple of days ago. So I'm basically, this chapter is about an episode I haven't watched yet, so I'm basically basing it off clips I've seen from it in YouTube videos or just the synopsis. This is from the episode, this is based on the episode in season 6, in between the Ungraduate and the episode where Lorelai and Rory are at the baptism of Suki and Jackson's twins. It was a Wednesday afternoon and all my classes were done for the day. My cell phone buzzed and Auntie Monica's name flashed on the caller ID screen. Hi, Mama. Hi, sweetheart. I just got off the phone with Lorelai. I cringed. I hadn't spoken with Rory since the weekend at the beach house. What does she want? She wants to invite us to dinner on Friday night at her parents' house. She said that she has a surprise for us. Sounds great. It was a 4-hour drive to the house, so we were exhausted when we got there. Mr. Gilmore met us at the door. Jennifer, you have grown into such a beautiful young woman. It's so nice to see you again. I embraced him. It's nice to see you too, Mr. Gilmore. Thank you for having us over for dinner. I was glad to see him, mostly because talking to him meant I didn't have to face Rory right away. Once we were seated at the table for dinner, I glanced at Rory awkwardly. We did not say anything to each other. Auntie Monica smiled at Lorelai. What was the exciting news that you had for us? Lorelai's smile was a mile wide. Suki and Jackson are having twins and have asked Rory and I to be the godparents. That's awesome, I replied, and Rory lowered her eyes. Mr. Gilmore cleared his throat. I think Rory has something she'd like to say to you all, though. Rory spoke up, but evaded Auntie Monica's eyes. I know you and Mr. Bing are still angry at me after what happened at the beach house last summer, Mrs. Geller, but I was really hoping you and Jennie could give me some good tips on how to be a godparent to Davy and Martha. Auntie Monica stood up, walked over to Rory's chair, and put an arm around her. Chandler and I forgive you, honey. Please stop worrying, okay? And what about you, Jen? Rory's eyes met mine. Can we talk privately after dinner? Sure. Rory nodded. After the table was clear, we headed to the pool house where Rory had been staying since she dropped out of Yale. I stared at my friend. Rory, do you have your act together enough after what happened at the beach house? You can't really do any more reckless things like that if you want to be a good role model for those kids. You need to be somebody Davy and Martha can look up to. Don't you forgive me, Jen? You just gotta. Tears fill my eyes. How can I trust you again after everything you did that night? Explain that to me. Rory dug her shoe into the carpet. I've been going to therapy for addiction. Do you want to come with me sometime? Then you can see how much better I'm doing. I exhaled. I don't know if I'm up to that. If I can get sober, would it fix our friendship? She looked at me hopefully. I'm not completely sure. You've done quite a lot of damage to it. You don't think that I deserve a second chance? I walked towards the door. No, I don't. Good night, Rory. Once we left the Gilmores, I saw a text message from Lane. Rory said you were at her grandparents' for dinner. Meet me at the diner. I have something to tell you. I turned to Auntie Monica. Lane just texted me. She's waiting at Luke's for us. The good news just keeps on coming. Once we got into Luke's, Lane waved us over to her table. What was the news Miss Gilmore had for you guys? Auntie Monica sighed. Suki has asked Lorelai and Rory to be the godmother to her babies. Lane cringed. How did that conversation go? After what happened at the beach house. I cleared my throat. I told her that she really needs to change her life around if she wants to be a good role model to those kids. That's the best advice that I have for her right now. Auntie Monica squeezed my hand. Honey, is your friendship with Rory over? I sighed. She wants me to be her sponsor for AA, but I don't think I can handle that right now. So I told her that we should part ways. She kissed my forehead gently. Let's talk with Uncle Chandler about this, okay? I'm sure he will be a great role model for Rory, and the two of you together could be great advocates for her sobriety. I nodded slowly. Okay, what's your news, Lane? Auntie Monica asked. Do you two remember my bandmate Zach? We nodded. Lane held out her hand and we noticed a glistening ring on her finger. We're engaged. I threw my arms around her. I'm so excited for you. When is the wedding? Auntie Monica asked. In April. Jen, do you want to be my bridesmaid? I nodded. You bet. The next chapter that I wrote is called Goodbye, Mr. Gilmore, and this flips forward to the spin-off series where Richard Gilmore dies. Now, I've seen one episode where he has a heart attack. I think there's another episode where he is hospitalized with a heart attack. I don't remember. See, I haven't watched the spin-off series, so I don't actually know what he dies of. I just say in this story that his medication stopped working and that's why he died, but I don't actually know why he died, but I'm assuming that he had another heart attack. I'm only on season 2 of Gilmore Girls right now, and it's going to take me a while before I even start to watch the spin-off series. So let's begin. 6 years later, I returned to Stars Hollow for the first time since Lorelai told us that she and Rory were going to be the godparents to Suki's babies. The return was bittersweet since we were going to Mr. Gilmore's funeral, and even though it had been years since I had seen him, I knew I would miss him terribly. Even though I lost touch with Rory over time, I always remembered Mr. Gilmore for his kindness and his sense of humor. I will miss his presence. At the funeral, I patted Rory's shoulder gently. I am sorry about your grandpa, I whispered. She pulled me tightly against her. Thanks, Jen. I miss him so much. I know. I held her tighter. Now wasn't the time to moralize. Now was the time to be there for my friend. She sighed. I fell off the wagon, Jen. My heart sank. I hadn't wanted to bring up AA, but she had just confirmed my fears. When Grandpa died, I was just so upset. I couldn't help it. Will you come to AA with me? I exhale, no. Uncle Chandler and I have put so much effort into guiding you, but you really don't want to listen. We have given up. You freaking stole someone's boat and got arrested. How can we trust you not to steal from us? Come on, Jen. I shook my head. No, I'm sorry. She stormed away, but before I could follow her, Miss Gilmore put her arm around me. Just let her go. I can't get through to her, and it's not your job. I smiled and gave her a hug. Thanks for coming, honey. We really appreciate it. I'm sorry about your loss, Miss Gilmore. I'm really going to miss your dad. You are just as special to my parents as Rory is. I hope that you know that. Tears were streaming down my cheeks. I know. I felt a set of smaller arms wrap around my waist. Hi, Miss Jennie. 10-year-old Martha glanced up at me. I kissed her forehead. Hi, Martha. How are you doing? Her eyes filled with tears. I missed Mr. Richard. Why did he have to go? I knelt down in front of her. He was really sick, and the medicine he was taking wasn't making him better. Can I have a hug? I nodded. Come here, sweetheart. I love you, Miss Jennie. I love you, too. Will you be my godmother instead of Auntie Rory? My jaw dropped, and I looked up at Lorelai. Lorelai sighed. Let's talk privately, okay? Suki and Jackson are out in the backyard. I nodded, and still shocked and processing what I had just been asked. When we got to the backyard, Suki pulled me into a hug. My daughter is not exactly the most subtle about things, as you can imagine. Does this have anything to do with Rory's reckless behavior? I asked. Jackson's eyes were clouded over with disdain. It has everything to do with it, Jennifer. Suki cleared her throat. Rory has stolen money from Jackson and I on more than one occasion, as well as medication. We stopped trusting her a while ago. Has she ever hurt the kids? I whispered. Jackson shook his head. Thankfully, no. Martha had tears in her eyes. Auntie Rory is really mean when she is drunk, and she breaks things. I squeezed her shoulder. She was like that at my beach house, too, you know. I know somebody who was just like Auntie Rory. Her eyes grew wide. Who was that, Miss Jennie? You know my uncle, right? Martha nodded slowly. Mr. Chandler? I nodded. He's had drinking problems since I was your age. It hasn't been easy, that's for sure. But he's been trying to use his experience to help Auntie Rory get sober. Jackson glanced at me. We truly appreciate your support and Chandler's guidance. We just wish Rory would listen and follow through. I exhaled slowly. So do I, Jackson. So my tier ranking video for my Friends and Gilmore Girls TBR will be out in a few weeks because I am just about wrapping up this TBR. Wild, I think, is the last book on this TBR I needed to read besides Manfried the Man. And then, of course, me and Kathleen are buddy reading the third Gilmore Girl next month, but the third Gilmore Girl is a reread for me, so I'm anticipating that the wrap-up video for the Friends and Gilmore Girls TBR will be out around the 27th of January. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. Evening, I should say.